The U.S. continues to be Hyundai's most important market as it continues its global push into new countries.
My top three priorities are USA, and USA is helping us to really make good progress.
Since 2020, Hyundai has grown its U.S. sales by roughly 50%. It's taken over major players like Honda and Stellantis and is closing the gap on the third top-selling automaker in the country, Ford. I sat down with Hyundai's CEO to discuss why the U.S. has become such an important priority for the company. The company has been on a hot streak for years and continues to invest in its U.S. manufacturing capabilities.
We localize, we have more engineering capabilities, more technical capabilities in this market compared to global, so depend less on Korean management and Korean R&D and Korean resources and focus more and more here.
Hyundai's in a unique place because it actually needs more production capacity. That means that the demand is outpacing the supply, and that is really unique in today's auto industry. Most companies are having to limit production or have plants that are empty. Hyundai's the exact opposite. They are trying to build new plants and build vehicles as fast as they can. Challenges for the automotive industry right now are abundant. I mean, they range from geopolitical concerns and trade and tariffs to slowing market demand. Thus far, that has not really impacted Hyundai too much. They have products that are really selling, and they've been able to navigate through a lot of the tariffs and geopolitical environment. They produce a lot of vehicles in South Korea. That tariff is lower than many other countries, and they're also trying to domesticate the U.S. auto industry here to even help avoid many of those other tariffs that they're currently facing.
The U.S. market, it's been through a lot since you've joined the company. I mean, in 2019, we went through COVID, a chip shortage, supply chain shortages, a war. How are you looking at U.S. tariffs right now?
I'm glad I'm not a politician, right? So, and then my job is to take all the elements that are available to do the business and make the most out of it, right? So I'm not gonna enter in judging the situation, but what I will tell you is that for us, tariffs are helping accelerate our localization plan. That's very, very simple.
Hyundai plans to invest $26 billion from 2025 through 2028. That's more money than it has invested since it entered the U.S. market 40 years ago. Muniz told me the new plant built in Georgia is one of the biggest milestones in the company's history and a key growth driver for the automaker.
How much more can you increase it without needing a brand new plant?
I think roughly we could stretch to 700,000 to 800,000.
A large part of the company's success comes from its breadth of products, from its luxury Jeniece brand to its middle-tier namesake brand to its value play with Kia. All have outperformed for years.
Jeniece, I mean, it's gone way beyond our expectations and became number 7 in the U.S. market, overtaking Porsche, Jaguar, Land Rover, and even before we've deployed the entire portfolio of products and technologies that are about to come.
Kia has been on a journey really for the last 10 years that we've focused on improving the quality, improving the design of our product, and now improving the perception of our brand. And that's really the trifecta that's led to our rapid sales growth over the last 10 years.
How are you looking at EVs now compared to, a few years back?
We continue to see EV as a very important market. Today, we account for roughly 1/3 of total vehicles electrified, and then with solid growth on battery EV. Now we're booming on hybrid, more than 70% growth, for example, last quarter here in the US.
Hyundai's expansion comes down to product. That product is what drives the company. It's what drives customers to dealerships to buy its product. And the white space product that it has left are essentially pickup trucks and SUVs. And when we talk about pickups and SUVs, that is the bread and butter segment for legacy players such as Ford Motor Company. Hyundai's been narrowing its sales gap with Ford for several years now, and selling pickup trucks as well as more rugged SUVs could really be kind of the next step for that catalyst of growth to continue to drive the company forward.